If I ruled the world, I love them, baby.
Welcome to If I Rule the World podcast, episode number whatever. Just not counting them anymore.
Yeah, we stopped.
But today we have a very special guest with us. We're actually with him. This is Roy Mayorga from Stone Sour.
How you doing?
And we're sitting in front of ABC No Rio.
I wish.
Yeah.
I don't think that's there anymore.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's probably some high rise or something that costs more than it should.
Most likely. Yeah, I used to live right around the corner from it, so I used to go to shows there all the time. I used to play there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the best seat in the house, like, because I was down, we'd be down in the basement, the drums are in the corner, and I would get toilet water leaking down on me.
Yeah, it's funny because
I remember, I was like, oh, God, gross.
Before we started the podcast, you were talking about playing Jones Beach Theater yesterday with Stone Sour, and there was a puddle of water. And now you're recounting ABC No Rio with a puddle of water. So the more things change.
Yeah, nothing's
Well,
changed.
you know, the water got cleaner, if I might add, you know, so, you know,
yeah.
kind of moved up a little bit, you know, a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do with you, Roy, is we're going to get to the Stone Sour stuff, right? But we want to go back. We want to go way back because I would love to introduce maybe some of the people that know you from some of the bigger bands that you're in to our corner of the world in which you came, which is New York City.
Yep.
And I know you lived in Pennsylvania at one point. You were born in New York City, but I'm just curious when you first got into punk and hardcore.
First got into punk. I would definitely be right at the beginning of the 80s. I mean, I have an older brother who was listening to a lot of that kind of music at the time, like a lot of the post-punk stuff, like Killing Joke and Joy Division and, you know, stuff like that. And that pretty much opened the gate for me with that stuff. And I started, you know, listening to Sex Pistols and Buzzcocks and 999 and then, you know, moving forward. How old was I?
Yeah.
Maybe like 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just got into that style of music. I was listening to a lot of that and like incorporating, you know, that kind of aggressiveness on drums from those kind of music and just playing to that. To Ramones. Always listened to Ramones. Actually, Ramones was probably the first one that I really got into and took heart to because, you know, finding out that we're from the same area, you know, they're from Forest Hills, Queens, like where I'm from. So I looked to them as like instant like heroes. Like, oh, this is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, especially like growing up, like, you know, like you're going to look to something like that and that, like they were at that peak at that moment right there. Like if you said around the 80s, like 79, 80.
Like 79, 80. Like at that time, I think Rock and Roll High School just came out, and before that, I think was like Road to Ruin and Leave Home. Like those are the records that I heard, and then, you know, of course, I backtracked in there and got Rocket to Russia, and, you know, got all the records. That's like pretty much how I discovered all these bands. Like when I discovered Kiss through Kiss Alive, you know, the first live record.
Yeah.
And then, you know, got the records behind, and then
Go backwards.
went backwards, and then of course, you know, got Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over. I would say Kiss is probably the first thing that really made an impact, and then took it from there.
Right.
Yeah.
And were you playing drums when you first heard those bands?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was, and then seeing what that band is doing, I was like, okay, I want to do that. So I try to do that. I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know. And I used to play to Kiss Alive, and that's pretty much how I learned how to play drums.
Yeah.
And then took it from there.
And then everybody always remembers their first show they went to, punk and hardcore, which, you know, back then you didn't see it on YouTube, you didn't see it on MTV, so it's like this walking into, you know, like Wizard of Oz when everything, you know, colors change, it goes from black and white to color. So what was that show for you?
My first show, unless you want to count New Zoo Review in Queens Plaza Mall.
What was that? New Zoo Review?
Queens Plaza Mall.
We'll make a mental note of that, but there's got to be a better
Shout
one.
out to Orange Julius.
Yeah. Okay. Fast forward to that 10 years from that. My first like real show that made an impact on me was seeing the Dead Kennedys.
Oh, wow.
When Frankenchrist was out.
Where at?
Actually, when I was living in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I was living in this area called Lehigh Valley, which everyone knows Allentown from it. I was living in an area called Whitehall, and there was this playground there called West Catasauqua Playground, and there was this little community center where they used to throw hardcore shows, and I used to go there. And I would see bands like Dead Kennedys and COC and DRI. This is all like between the years of like in 84, 85 to like 87, around that time. So I got to see a lot of cool stuff, and like in real like raw environment. You know, like it was awesome.
Were you in an area where bands would come through?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw pretty much everybody. Black Flag. I remember seeing GBH and Agnostic Front together when they toured.
Wow.
When
Legendary
AF
tour.
was supporting Cause for Alarm. It was fucking sick. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody was sort of like peaking at metal.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
hey,
like that weird. It was like
crossover.
crossover
Yeah,
metal,
Like,
crossover metal punk. Like it was
Could we?
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely on the rise right then and there during that time. It was cool.
Right.
I loved it.
Especially the bands you mentioned, like with DRI and COC, like those were like the two at the forefront.
Yeah.
You know,
They weren't so metal yet.
Oh no,
They were
definitely no.
getting
Yeah, they
there.
were getting there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
COC didn't get there till later.
Like I saw them when Animosity just come out.
I-85.
Yeah, and DRI Dealing with It just came out.
Okay.
Yeah, so it still had a metalish edge to it, but it still had this like fuck you punk vibe to it too.
Yeah, that's
which is
awesome.
great. Yeah, nothing like it, man.
So you got the bug. You saw the bands. You start really enjoying this shit. When do you then join a band? What was your first?
Pretty
band?
much right after I saw Dead Kennedys, like I met a couple people at that show, and then I got word that these two guys in this band needed a drummer, and I hooked up with them, and then this band was called Youthquake.
Youthquake.
Yeah, and we're full on like fast melodic kind of hardcore, like kind of like a 7 seconds kind of vibe, maybe a little gnarlier.
You know what? Without you describing it, the name Youthquake sounds exactly like that. That's what I pictured.
Yeah, it was cool.
And so how old are you at this point?
15.
15.
Yeah.
And then, are you moving to New York City yet, or are you
No,
just still?
I'm still there.
Still playing around.
Still there. I stayed there till I was about 17 or 18.
Okay.
I mean, but during that time when I was living in Pennsylvania, I used to go up to New York and used to go to Philly to see shows
Right.
with my brother and catch some hardcore shows and stuff like that. The Ritz and CB's, so I've been all these places already. I knew that I wanted to get back there.
Yeah.
Because where I was living at the time, it just didn't seem like it was going to really, pan out to where I wanted it to be. So
Right.
I figured I need to get out of here and get to one of those cities. So I ended up moving to Philly first.
Okay.
And played in some bands down there. Nothing really came out of any of it. And then I met our friend Sean Roberts,
Okay.
who lived in Philly.
That's right.
And he gave me word that a band in New York called Nausea was looking for a drummer. And I just seen them like literally 2 months prior to that when I was living in Allentown, and got to meet all of them. And I'm like, God, they're my new favorite band. I love
Yeah.
this band. They're like the crusty punk version of X. There's
Right.
2 singers, female, male. So he told me they're looking for a drummer, man. You should go check it out. So he called up John and got us talking. And then next thing I know, I had $20 left in my pocket. I got on the NJ train, and met up with John. And then I tried out, and then I got the gig, and then I went back home, and then packed all my stuff and moved to New York.
Just moved out there.
So the goal was always to just kind of just play.
Yeah.
Right? Just get out.
Just get out and play, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's
Just look forward and just keep going.
Yeah, because it's at that point, not a lot of people, I guess, think like that. Mm-hmm. But the ones that did, I feel like it definitely worked out. Like you just get in that van or wherever and just like not come home.
Yeah.
You just play everywhere to like 2 people to 200 to 50. As long as you have that passion, which I guess you did, and you found Nausea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, I think the idea too is like when you find something you want to do, just go there and like, they say like burn the boats.
Yeah.
You got to make it work.
Just
you gotta
make it work.
Figure this out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you being in Nausea, now you moved to New York City, and I know that like for people that don't know that era, there was like a huge squatter scene downtown where it was literally squats. And Nausea was a big part of that.
Yeah.
You lived in squats?
I did. I lived in, before joining Nausea, I remember coming up to New York and staying there for a couple months, just kind of, scouting around what's going on, looking for a band. And I was living in a squat on 11th Street between B and C for a little while, where I first met Frenchie, who's Agnostic Front's roadie, and Frenchie to Skin.
Frenchie to Skin.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
I lived where else? Lived on 6th Street for a minute. Lived on 7th Street squad for a minute. I've kind of bounced around a little bit, just seeing where the hell I'm going. And but when I moved back, properly to New York, when I joined Nausea, I ended up actually living with Amy and Roger in Staten Island.
Okay.
Because I had nowhere else to go.
Right.
And yeah, how's that?
Now, for a white boy from Long Island who doesn't know shit, can you please explain to me what it's like to live in a squad? I've heard different stories, but I trust your version of the story.
It depends, because some squats, the community was there, and the idea of taking over, a derelict place and making it a home, and fighting for that cause was there. But you also had to deal with a lot of junkies and drug addicts and shit going down like that in the place you live. Sometimes I would come home and I'd find stuff missing, like drums and all kinds of shit. So I mean, that was always there. That element of danger was always there, but I didn't mind it because I just figured it's a part of it all. There's nothing you could do about it. You want to do something about it, make some more money and go get an apartment, which I ended up doing. But I had no choice but to live in that, and I supported the idea of it, and I thought it was cool. But unfortunately, there were some people that were living in those places that didn't give a fuck and just used it as a drug den and stole from you and sold your shit to get more drugs and bring shitty people around, and fuck it up for everybody that really want to be there for the right reasons. So there you go.
Yeah, well, it was always easier to hop on the Long Island Railroad and get back to Long Island. You're like, well, that was fun. Yeah. ABC No Rio, but
for a Hispanic kid from Long Island, now I know too.
So how long were you in Nausea? How many records?
I joined in 89, and immediately after I joined, like a month after, we went and recorded a record at Toxic Chalk Studios. I'm sure it's way gone.
Yeah,
it was like on Houston and Broadway in one of the buildings. I was in there. I was with the band from 89 till about 91, 92.
Okay.
And then we just fell apart after that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you brought in, from what I remember, like the difference of when you came in. It's interesting when a drummer sort of changes like the mood or the pace of it.
Yeah.
And you brought in like the double bass drum and like a different thing that in punk rock, like quote unquote punk rock, really wasn't in there that I can remember or that I heard. And there was this kind of energy to Nausea now, especially like they always had that uniqueness with the two singers. Right. And then this almost maybe kind of a metal thing with the drumming that you brought in. Right. That was different. It was incredible.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, at that time, I mean, I was listening to punk, but I was also listening to like Rain and Blood. That I think every drummer at that time heard that and went, "Fuck it, I want a second kick drum." Right. So yeah. I mean, listening to Lombardo and listening to Lars at the time with Injustice for All, Metallica album, that did it for me. That pretty much was my inspiration at that time to play that way, but also infuse the style of drumming I had at the time, which was more classic rock and punk rock roots, and kind of just came out that way. Right. Kind of adapted to whatever the situation was in front of me, and just
Yeah, I was talking about that record just recently because it's like my favorite Metallica record. I think it's just fucking mind-boggling.
It's prog, almost.
It is
amazing.
Like those, like when else can you hear Injustice for All, like a 9-minute and 45-second song, and not be bored? And the record turned 30 years old. That's what we were talking about. It's
crazy, man.
Amazing.
It's still, I mean, to me, it's still one of the greatest records. It's aged amazing. It still sounds fresh to me. And I still listen to it to this day.
Me too. Everything from Blackened to Dyer's Eve and everything in the middle.
God. Yeah.
It's just completely like them at their peak. So I get, for, like you said, Lombardo, for Rain and Blood, for that just straightforward.
Those 3 records back to back, the Andy Wallace records, Rain and Blood, South of Heaven, Season of the Abyss. Like, to me, that's a trilogy. Like, those are must-have records.
Yeah. And for me, Seasons is my favorite, man.
Me too. I love all of them, but I love that one.
Seasons is like, to me, what Injustice for All was. So it's just very much everything from War Ensemble to Seasons and
classic,
in between.
Man.
it just shows them at their peak.
Yeah.
So I'll stop geeking out.
Hey, man, we can appreciate it. Hey, nothing wrong with appreciating music, man.
He expects me to jump in and be like, "Can we just get back to Roy?"
Yeah.
It's not about them. It's about me. Nah.
Moving forward.
We always fuck with each other
Because I have another show.
He has another show, and they do more of the get into the minutia.
Yeah.
You know, so when it starts going on and on, I'm like, hey, save it for Red River.
Absolutely,
Podcast,
absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, we get super geeky on that one. So.
all right, so what I remember about Nausea was like, it was almost like a band I feel like got more popular after you guys were gone. Like,
Yep.
I know you toured, and I know you did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, legend lives on, right?
Yeah, we turned into a patch and a T-shirt.
Yeah. It's one of those patches that everybody had, and it's great artwork. So it's like, you know, the Avail patch, the, you know, Black Flag stripes. It's like this good branding.
Unfortunately, though, it's funny that I'll run into some kids that have a Nausea patch on their jacket, and they'll just kind of, I'll be like, say I'm like standing waiting in line for a coffee, and this guy just kind of looked me up and down, like kind of in disgust. I'm like looking at him, I'm like, that's a cool patch you got there, and he's like, yeah. I go, you know, do you have any of the records? He's like, no. You know what they sound like? No. I'm just kind of like, give me that fucking thing.
Right.
What?
I didn't say anything. I was kind of like, wow, you don't even know what the band sounds like, and you're wearing it on your fucking jacket.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
There's like, they sell a Metallica t-shirt.
Nobody
like
cares.
JCPenney,
People
and-
just have this look, and that's it. They don't live it, you know. They don't know why they're wearing this fucking band logo or any of their band logos. You know, it's
Right.
pretty incredible to me.
Part of me just wouldn't even want to like know the truth, you know. Like I would just rather, you know, to not be so disappointed. I'll be like, let me just make pretend that you know them.
Yeah.
Because if you tell me no, then it's just gonna fucking crush
Well,
me.
it's just like when you know, back in the 90s, I don't know if you remember, people had Fishbone shirts. A lot of them didn't know what the fuck the band
Right,
was. It's
right.
like, that's a great Fishbone shirt. They're like, huh? I'm like, it's fucking Fishbone. Who? I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You don't know who the fuck they are?
You gotta earn that shirt.
come
You gotta
on.
earn that
The
patch.
fucking Crimson Ghost, the Misfits, like
Right, there you
probably
go.
the most famous shirt that most people are like, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, the fuck? I'm like, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I go like, I show them like the tattoo. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, never mind.
Yeah, so that would be my recollection of it. Just if it seems like it lived on, got bigger, and
Yeah, I mean, we definitely made it more of an impact later. But we got to see though we did have a crowd though. I know
Yeah.
outside of the States, especially when we toured Europe twice. That's my first like real tour outside of the States, was in Europe. I was like 20 years old, and our record just came out, and we played all squats all over Europe and stayed at these places, like
Right.
500-600 seat places. It was fucking incredible,
Yeah.
man. I've never seen anything like this. I was just so, wow, this is so blown away. And we broke up, and then never heard of again. And then all of a sudden, we were getting these calls. You guys got to reunite and da da da. I'm like, really? And of course, we tried to, you know, get that going, get that happening like a few years ago. But
yeah.
you know, a few of us just don't have it in us anymore to want to do it. And,
Right.
And they want to do it for the right reasons, and I don't blame them for not getting back together.
Right.
So
Yeah,
unless we're all in on it for the same reasons, all on the same page, then yeah.
Right.
But other than that, it's good to leave it back there as a good memory and a good time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a money grab. It's
No.
got to be emotionally
No.
correct. Otherwise, what's
Well,
the
we never
point?
made money.
Yeah.
It's never money grab of any kind, you know.
Right.
That band never fucking made money. We broke even, if anything.
Yeah.
You know, we used to, when we went to go tour Europe, you know, we bought our own plane tickets.
Right.
The only thing is the promoter would book our tour manager at the time would book the tour.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get ourselves there. And we borrowed everybody's equipment.
Right.
I mean, we brought our guitars, our bass. I brought my snare, actually just my pedals and sticks.
Mm-hmm.
I would use the opening act's drum kit, and you know, I had to switch to a different kit every night, man.
Yeah.
That was a fucking.
That's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, because some nights I'll get really good kits. Some nights I'll get these kits that are just like literally taped together, and by the end of the set they'll be like demolished, and I'd be telling the guy, "I'm sorry, you know, I'll buy you beer. Here's some money. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to. You know, thanks
And
for letting me use your kit."
That's when it's beneficial if you're playing with metal bands, because you know metal bands will have good equipment. But if you're Nausea and you're touring squats in Europe, I'm just gonna guess that a lot of the bands you played with didn't put a lot of emphasis on good equipment.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of us, you know, a lot of them were you know, didn't have a lot of money, so they had what they had and made it work. And
right.
That's the beauty of punk to me. You do it for yourself. You do it yourself, and you work with what you have, make the best out of it.
Yeah, yeah, that is like the best. Even like we talk about like venues. It's like, oh, we need touring bands to come through. It's like, oh, okay, we'll set up in this hotel room. Like we'll just make it work. That we'll take donations. So
yeah, man.
So basically, what you're saying is, you didn't have any Tommy Aldridge drums to play on.
Absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. There's a couple times where I got on a drum kit that only had one crash cymbal, a hi-hat, a floor tom, and a kick and snare. Make it work, man.
Yeah.
Gotta do it.
And it comes up a lot in this podcast because the people we interview of like what you take from punk and hardcore throughout your life as you get older. And one of those things is the ability to just make it happen.
Make it happen.
Just play.
That's just something I think that's internal. You just don't have control over that. That's just who you are.
Yeah.
Like that ethic is always going to be there. You're never going to be conscious of it.
Yeah.
I got to do it this way and be like this. You are who you are.
Right.
So in other words, yeah, my ethics are still pretty much the same from back then to now.
Right.
Even though it's a lot easier now, and I'm actually making a living from this.
Seems like a good gig.
I still think the way I think,
Yeah.
like I did then.
But I mean moving from Nausea to all these different bands, I think probably that's what these other bands would see in you. Because what people don't understand about touring and all of that, it's work.
It is
You need
work.
people to be on the same page.
Yeah.
You need to be. So if someone has that in them,
Yep.
it's that's who you call.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been working your whole life.
My whole life,
as
man.
a drummer.
At this point, like in bands since '85, so that's what 33 years straight.
Wow.
And I started playing when I was 6, so it's like 42 years playing drums. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
I'm still learning,
Yeah.
I'm always learning something new every day,
And back in New York City, Nausea breaks up. I know you were working at Wetlands. I wasn't sure of the years, but what were you doing beyond Nausea?
Yeah, at that time I was working a couple different jobs to stay alive. Obviously didn't have a band, didn't really go tour. I was working at Wetlands as front of house. I was also working at CB's. CB's is actually where I really learned how to do sound.
Okay.
I cut my teeth there, and then once I got my chops there, then while being a bar back busboy at Wetlands, I bothered the owner. Like, I want a job as a sound engineer here. I want a job as a sound engineer. He finally gave it to me after I, fucking just needled him for weeks.
Right.
He's like, all right, fucking have the job. I'm like, thank you. And then, so in that time, while I was working those two places, and also getting hired out by different bands to, moonlight here and there with them, I started another band with John from Nausea, and Stefan Flam from the band Winter, another cool old metal crusty Long Island band.
Wow, yeah.
We had a band called Thorn.
Right.
It was a 3-piece, and it was kind of like an industrial-ish kind of metal kind of vibe. And we had a record out on Roadrunner and played some shows in here. We didn't really get to do any touring or anything like that, and that kind of stopped after a couple years. And then I moved on from there and ended up playing in Shelter.
Shelter, that's right.
Yeah, and the reason how I got in Shelter, I mean, I already knew Ray and Purcell from CB's days and Nausea and all that stuff and hardcore. I hadn't seen him for years, but I got that gig through Mackie actually.
Oh, okay.
Mackie from Chromax.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he calls me up one day. He's like, man, I'm actually, I got to go do this other gig. What are you doing? I'm like, I'm not doing anything right now. He's like, well, Shelter's looking for a drummer. I think he was going to join Fun Loving Criminals.
Wow.
Okay.
So when he went to go Fun Loving Criminals, and I guess to do some Urban Blight stuff too, that's when I went into Shelter. I auditioned for him. Wow. And then I went on tour with them like a couple weeks later. Did all of Europe and helping them support the Mantra album that came out at the time. I went to South America with them. Yeah, it was fun, man. It was one of the greatest times of my life. Like
really
hanging out with those two guys.
Yeah,
with Ray and Purcell and Franklin, who used to be in Crown of Thorns, was the bass player. Adam Blake, who's now a bass player of H2O, was the guitar player at that time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Adam.
It was cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, now that has to be a different touring experience.
Oh, yeah.
With Ray and Purcell, they were heavy on the
and Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great. I mean, like, I walked away from that tour thinking and looking at things a lot differently, like in a more spiritual sense, and just enlightened in different parts of life. You know, I walked away with that.
Right.
And yeah, man, positive.
Yeah, I mean, what Ray dropped on the hardcore scene, I mean, Straight Edge alone, and then the Krishna stuff.
Yep.
You know, it got a bad name because people would do it as a trend. So
Right.
that always ruins things, you know.
They're
they were
100%
Yeah.
like for real, and they still are. And
He, you know, brought that in.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Cro-Mags to some degree.
they did too.
But, you know, Ray really, you know, walked the walk.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he's still walking the walk.
All these years later.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
We
So,
haven't- yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
so now, how did you hook up with Max?
There's a couple of different parts to that. Well, I first met Max, actually, I was still in Nausea, and a mutual friend of ours introduced us at the Ritz in New York.
Okay.
When they came through with Napalm Death Sacred Reich, I think it was at New Titans on the Block tour. And Max supposedly knew who Nausea was, and he did. And when he was introduced, he's like, "Oh, Nausea!" Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "Wow, you know Nausea?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He saw, you know, had this like Amoebix patch, and he was
Yeah.
all into Amoebix. Like, he was just geeked out on punk and stuff like that, and he talked about Brazil. Asked him what's it like down there, because I never met anyone from Brazil at that point, or you know, let alone a metal band from Brazil.
Right.
It's like, holy shit. So they were touring for Arise. They fucking kicked ass that night. It was awesome, and we became friends from there. And we would see each other every so often, every other year. You know, run into each other. And then I think the time when I ran into them in like '96, when I was on tour with Shelter, we played a couple of festivals with them, and then I crossed paths with them again there, and we talked about, you know, hey man, you know, when this is all done, we should, you know, get together and do some stuff together. It'd be great. I'm like, yeah, man, anytime, you let me know. So he stayed to his word, and he got a hold of me through Monty Connor, Roadrunner Records, saying he's starting something new, and that's how it started. Wow. I flew out to Phoenix, hung out with them for about a week, and jammed, and you know, jammed some Sepultura songs and punk songs. Just jammed to see what happens. And the chemistry was there, and I stuck with it.
And you did like a remix for them or something like
I
that?
did, yeah. I did a remix for them. That's the other thing that kept me in the mix and the loop of everything.
For Sepultura? Or?
Yes, for Sepultura. I did a remix for Refuse Resist. They called it Chaos BC. It's like this weird techno samba kind of track. It was kind of, that sound was kind of popular in New York at the time, so I kind of got inspired and influenced from that. And then being from Brazil, I'm like, oh yeah, it's perfect mashup. So I took some Sergio Mendes drum beats and some like other, you know, samba beats and chopped them up together and made it work with Refuse Resist. You know, I got their reels, their 24-track master reels from Roadrunner, and they gave it to me to take, you know, separate tracks from it, so I can really, you know, augment these things. Without just sampling it off the CD. I can get guitar tracks, I can get vocal tracks, some drum tracks, and do what I may with it, you know. But what's cool, not only did they put that out on their bonus CD thing with when they re-released KSAD, they used that intro. They used my remix as their intro at one point, which I was like, that is so cool,
amazing.
man.
Yeah. He seems like I never met him, like obviously you two, but he seems like a super genuine guy and a fan of music.
He really is,
like
man.
a super fan of music.
He turned me on to a lot of cool shit. When I first joined up, like he turned me on to a lot of cool Brazilian music that I never heard before, like, you know, Carlinhos Brown, Planet Hemp, and, you know, Hashu Nice, like bands like that. And I was like, wow, this is great stuff. And he's like, yeah, listen to all this. Chico Science and the Sound Zumbi, which is like a huge inspiration on me for the Soulfly record, which is a lot of maracatu, forró, you know, rhythms. Like it's a northern Brazil style. He's like, listen to this stuff and see what you think, and let's come back and jam. So I took that style of drumming and infused it with whatever was going on with me at the time, and then, you know, we came out with what you hear.
On that record, the first record.
Yeah.
And it's crazy too, because like you figure he was playing with his brother for so long, Like, did you find that at all somewhat intimidating, like to basically jump in with him, or did it just feel like?
Because I didn't look at it that way because I was a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Igor, and he's a good friend of mine as well, and I'm a fan of their music. You know? There's no intimidation of any kind.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I guess very different too. No. And like by the time Roots came out for Sepultura, it was like their percussion game was like pretty crazy too as well. So.
Oh yeah.
So you were able to, Max, I would just guess, is like main songwriter, but you were able to come in and do your drums.
Oh, he's the main songwriter for sure. I mean, he would come up with riffs, and he had like 4 or 5 songs already written by the time we got into the studio, and the rest of it, he just came up with it right there. Mm-hmm. And he would throw riffs at me, and I would, play drums to it. I remember the one song that I could remember that we all wrote together on the fly was "No Hope, No Fear." The second song. It was I remember at rehearsal, he came in with that riff, that down, and right as the drum beat came, I came in right with that beat and the bass, everything, just one shot. I can remember everyone looking at each other like, yeah, that was on. That's like my favorite song because of that reason. It was magic.
Yeah.
And he's so fucking quick, like on the fly, like watching him work. Recording that record was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like he would come up with some cool shit, lyrically, vocally, like on the fly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's amazing too for you to go from New York City squats touring to touring on this level. Now you're on a bigger level. Yep. It's Max's like comeback band.
Yep.
And you're playing big venues. Mm-hmm. What was the change like for you?
Well, I mean, as far as like what touring wise,
yeah.
Well, I never toured on a bus before until then. Mm-hmm. I mean, he put my name on the map even more, and it was great, It definitely had the raw element still, like, it felt like a punk to me when I was playing with him, so it wasn't like, it's just completely, different, but it is. I mean, the only thing that's the difference is that, we definitely traveled better, know. It was cool, we played bigger venues and,
Right.
I could have sworn did you guys open up for Slayer? Like
we did.
Roseland?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I remember because I was like, holy shit.
The Y2K?
I don't remember. I just remember Roseland, Slayer, Soulfly.
Yeah, it was Y2K.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. That was for, I think, a Soulfly 3 record we were supporting.
Really?
Yeah. They might have toured with them, too, when I wasn't in the band.
Okay.
Because there was a period where I ducked out, and Joe Nunez came in and played drums, and that was for Primitive. So it might have been during Primitive. I'm not sure, but I know we toured with Slayer a bunch at that time. Yeah, always. Because I remember it was either Soulfly or Hatebreed. Those were like the two that could actually, because like when you open up for fucking Slayer, it's just like people just yell Slayer no matter who the fuck you are, nonstop, all day, every day till they play. So I just remember Soulfly and Hatebreed were like the two that could actually, definitely fucking put it up. Yeah. The Slayer crowd was cool to us. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, dude, Jamie rules.
Yeah.
I saw him actually a couple days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, he was actually going to do his podcast interview with Corey.
Love it.
Yeah.
I listen to his podcast all the time.
Oh, they're great.
Super smart.
So, you know what's hard to do, too?
What?
Open up for Soulfly. Open up for Slayer is rough. But everyone's just like standing there waiting for Max.
You guys held your own. You guys sounded fucking great.
I think we
to everyone out there that doesn't know, George over here used to be in A Day in a Life, and they were fucking awesome.
And Roy was the sound man.
I was their sound guy for a minute.
You know what? I'm going to tell you a good story about Roy. We got a minute, right?
Sure.
Check this out.
I got a minute.
So Roy was our sound man for a couple months. This was right before the Soulfly record came out. It was recorded. You had some time. You helped us out. We were touring, and it was good tours. It was like Cold Chamber, Seven Dust, all these big metal tours, right?
It was great.
And we were in our van, and, when you're touring, a lot of kids will give you their demos. They give you their CDs, their demos, or whatever. The band that I was in, we've just been on the road for a long time. Everybody was cranky, and I remember someone in the band, and I'm not going to throw that person under the bus. We'll just say someone in the band took a demo and threw it. Mm-hmm. Or threw it on the ground, crash. Roy walked over, picked it up, put it back together, and said, "You remember when you were a demo band once? Don't do that." And put it back to our pile over there. And that's Roy. And Roy was in Soulfly. Roy wasn't playing,
I'll tell you this, to this day, I still get demos, and I always listen to them. I may not like them sometimes. I'll put them away, whatever. But I listen to everybody's demos. Come on, they put in so much fucking heart and soul and work into that. They just want you to listen to it.
Right.
Just fucking listen to it.
And what does it take to just play it?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What does it take to not throw it?
Right.
It takes more energy, but it's like, it's just like a statement of who you are when you do something like that,
And that's why when you said every place that you pop up, someone recognizes him. Because it's like, like you gravitate towards people that you enjoy being around. So,
yeah.
I mean, I just met him today. So.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. According to his Wikipedia, that's what it says.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just
kidding. He's a good guy. He's a good fella. He's one of us. Hey, yo.
I'm going to edit your Wikipedia page.
Yeah, today, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Friend of ours.
So you're in Soulfly. You're out of Soulfly. You're back in Soulfly.
Yes.
What was that leap out of Soulfly for?
I was going through some really dark transitional shit then. I mean, nothing bad, Just some personal stuff at the time that I needed to take care of. And I stepped out. Mm-hmm. And once that was all ironed up and that was good, I came back.
Right. And then you did Soulfly for a while. And what was after that?
After that, I had this other thing with Mikey Doling and Marcelo and two of the guys from One Side Zero, this band called A Bloom. We did that for a few years. We didn't really tour. I mean, actually, we did one tour. We did a tour for Zippo. Zippo actually funded one of our tours. We played mostly around, Southern California and did some, weekend stuff here and there. We tried to make that happen. Recorded a bunch of songs, and it was great, but obviously it panned out.
And Medication, too.
That's right. Medication.
We skipped over that.
Oh, my God. How could I? Medication. When I first moved to L.A., I hooked up with Whit Crane, who was in Ugly Kid Joe, who's actually back in Ugly Kid Joe.
And Life of Agony.
Life of Agony, yep. And Logan Mader. And Robert Trujillo, before he was joining Metallica, he was still in Ozzy at the time. Right. And we had this band called Medication.
And Mark from Day in the Life was in it for a minute, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blunt.
Yeah, Blunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, he was in it. And we did that for a few years and actually did a tour in UK.
Okay.
And made an album and an EP. I mean, I was on the EP. I didn't get to play on the album because that's when I went and joined Soulfly again.
Right.
And I think Josh Freese played drums on that.
Okay.
So yeah, I went from that to A Bloom, and then I didn't play for a while after that. Kind of was gonna give up.
Really?
Yeah, I was 35 at the time, and I was like, you know what? It hasn't happened for me. It's not gonna happen. Fuck it. So I put my sticks down, and I went to work my wife's hair salon, helping her do hair, and I was doing hair extensions, cutting hair.
No kidding.
Yeah, I could do that. So anyone out there needs extensions, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty cheap,
It's always good to have something to fall back.
Yeah, man, especially that. My girlfriend owns the salon, so I know.
But I was also engineering, like freelance engineering, at studios and stuff like that, and I was working at Key Club as well, doing sound. Just do what you got to do to fucking stay alive. Right. I wasn't happy about it. I was pretty bummed out. Like there was nothing out there. There was no one needed a drummer. I just didn't feel like there was anything out there. So I just I'm just gonna lay my head down, and that's that.
Was this 2000s?
2005. And then one day I got a call from Dino Cazares from Fear Factory Assassino. He's like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. Why? He's like, well, I'm doing this thing with Roadrunner Records. There's like a thing called Roadrunner United All Stars, and I need a drummer. I'm like, well, fuck, I'm in.
Yeah.
So we wrote 3-4 songs together and became part of that Roadrunner United thing. And that pretty much opened the door for me again to get back into this. And I ended up playing with Corey and Andreas and all these different musicians that were on Roadrunner that I knew from before. They're like, oh, welcome back. Right. Played the show with them at the Nokia Theater in New York after that. And then ball started rolling from there. I was with Andreas. Andreas is like, hey, Igor is going to duck out for this tour because, he's expecting a baby. What are you doing? I'm like, nothing. Why don't you come play with us? So I went and played with Sepultura for a couple months. And This is prior to joining Stone Sour. So when I was done with that, I was home, and then I got a call from Stone Sour saying, "Hey, we need some drums for a record to record. Are you into it? Do you have time?" Sure. I went down and recorded their record, and then a week later, I get a call to join, and here we are.
Shout out to Dino.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dino, man.
Dino's
If it
a
wasn't
great
for
connector.
him calling me, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So
It's crazy how that
I
one
I
situation.
thank him every day, for that. He really
the butterfly effect.
Right.
definitely, absolutely.
Did you play with Dave Navarro?
I did actually
Yeah.
during that time when I was on medication. I played on the Trust No One record
Okay.
on a couple tracks.
Right.
The rest of it
That was a big
was Matt Chamberlain played drums on that. Actually, Matt Chamberlain and myself actually share a track somewhere. I can't remember what song it was, but Rich Costi, the producer, married our drums in this one song. Like I think
wow.
I think I'd be playing.
Interesting.
I think I'd be playing like a chorus and a pre-chorus, and Matt would be playing just all the verses. It was weird. It was pretty cool sounding.
Yeah.
And I still haven't met him yet. I've always wanted to meet Matt
Right.
Chamberlain. Like he's a fucking great drummer.
Especially since you're on the same track.
It's definitely an honor, man, to be on a record with him and to work with Dave and Rich.
Absolutely. I mean, just what a guitarist. I mean, obviously, we're huge Jane's Addiction fans.
Dave's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And he's such a cool dude. I don't get to see him often. I don't see him often. I mean, I don't even think he lives in LA anymore. I think he lives in New York. I mean, the last time I saw him was at a benefit show he was doing for suicide prevention. That was like a few months ago. They did like this whole theme of all Adam Ant's music.
Oh man,
It was fucking incredible.
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's he's got a TV show. He branched out.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing all right.
Made him a documentary about like his mom,
Morning
which
Sun.
is
Mhm.
fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal,
It's
but
fucking brutal.
he's out there.
Yeah. You joined Stone Sour. Like you were playing with them. Were you officially in the band that quick?
Yeah.
Like a week later? They're like, you're in.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, so is that like, then there's songwriting that comes along with that? Or?
Yep. It's I'm a full member.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We all are.
And do you write actual songs, or you're just your part is the drum parts, or you come in with like?
I come in with riffs. I come in with ideas. I've come in with songs. We all write together. Like on this last record, I didn't really write songs. I pretty much came up with a couple riffs, like 2 riff parts, and I would give them to, Josh or Corey or to Christian, and then they would take those 2 riffs and write a whole song around it. You know?
Right.
That's basically how I'm working these days. Drums, riff, here it is.
Right.
And
And
then,
you always seem to have that connection with your bands, and
Yeah.
you know better than anyone. It's not necessarily the case with some of the biggest bands we see. They're
Yeah.
touring, they're doing great. They all leave in separate exits and entrances. But from the outside looking in, from Nausea to Max to Stone Sour, there's like this. You walk into these brotherhoods.
it's a
is that like
brotherhood. Absolutely.
prerequisite?
Absolutely. I mean, I was fortunate to have been every band I've been in. I'm fortunate that brotherhood element was there.
Right.
That's the one thing I always look for. If I don't feel that there, then I don't belong there.
Right.
That chemistry has to be there on and off stage.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not there, then there's no point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for full-time touring,
Yeah.
that helps.
I mean, from the first band I was in, that set the bar of what a band should be like that I want to be a part of. That family connection, that brotherhood, that gang. You know what I mean?
Right.
You look out for one another.
Good old
You're
youth
straight
clique.
up. You're straight up with each other. You're not. You're honest. You don't lie. You don't steal. You don't cheat. You
Right.
fucking keep it real.
Yep.
We didn't cover the movie stuff too, because I think you did did some scoring.
Yeah, well, I want to get into some of the other stuff you do.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about Ministry.
Okay.
Oh shit!
and
You
that-
gonna edit all this shit?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. We'll make a nice tight
Yeah,
thing,
I'll slice and I'm
All right.
slice and dice. Touring with Ministry, you did a little stint.
Mm-hmm.
And what's it like touring with Al Jorgensen, man?
Dude, he's
Uncle Al.
Man, dude, Uncle Al, he's awesome, man. Like how I got that was actually through my wife, because my wife's a hairdresser, and she was doing Al's hair at this one day, like just, repairing the dreads. She's a dread repairer. And I guess he mentioned, like, they'll need a drummer, blah, blah, blah. He said, what about your husband? Is he available? And then that's how that happened. And he happened to live a mile up from us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just all like the stars were just aligned. And then we talked to each other, and, he gave me a list of songs to learn. And then we all crammed into my garage recording studio in my house, and we practiced there for a week and a half, and then went out and hit the road.
How many shows was that?
I don't know. I was with them for like a couple months. I would say probably like about 30.
God, some of those like drum patterns are like, so, they're like drum machines. So like, I'm just wondering like how that even works.
Well,
I mean, and I just saw them last year.
Well, what was cool about Al, he allowed me to put my personality into it a little bit. But basically said, don't veer off too far from how the beat is. So I basically had to marry what the drum machine beat was like and how a human would play it, and kind of make it work.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Plus, I had triggers on my kick and snare, so even though, I mean, it gave me more of a robotic sound to it,
Yeah,
kind of helped with that.
Yeah, because it sounds like, I mean, just from the live aspect, I'm like, how the fuck does this, and I just saw them last
There's
year.
loops going on too that I'm playing too,
yeah,
so that helps. That creates that kind of rigidness.
Some of those records, yeah.
Right.
And then they have I don't know if you guys have like the screen behind you when you were in the band.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, those. I mean, that really adds something to the live show. Especially when you play like a festival and people are all the way in the back. And
he puts all that stuff together.
Yeah. It's hard to engage people in the back sometimes.
Right.
But when you have those big visuals and it's dark out, people are like glued to it.
Yeah.
And you have the music. So.
Oh, you have to have that. I mean, that Ministry show. I mean, that's you have to have those visuals. I mean, it goes with what he's doing.
Yeah.
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 He had the inflatable Trump and Hillary.
I saw
thing.
that.
Because we went.
Yeah, we went.
I totally forgot we went.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was
Yeah,
like,
they're kicking ass right now.
That last record's amazing. I love it. I think it's and he's got a lot to say, and some people don't like it, some people like it, but definitely this record is awesome.
He pulls no punches, man.
No.
He tells it like it is, and that's what I love about him.
Yeah.
And he was great to tour with. He was a lot of fun. We had a really good time on the road. Just fucking laughed the whole time.
And your wife did fix his dreads?
Yeah.
Maybe Roy fixed his dreads.
Oh yeah, why not?
Roy can do it.
He could do it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, let's talk about some of the other stuff that you do, because I know you do production, engineering, and there's film scoring that you're involved with.
Okay.
So what some of the records that you've done that you weren't in?
The last thing I did was for Lifetime channel. This movie called Nanny Cam, and I did the score for that. Still gets played. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's super cool. How do you approach something like that? You just like watch it and
well, what they do, they give it to you in segments. Like whoever's producing and directing will give you segments, scenes where they want music, and they'll just kind of write out what should be here, and basically I'll throw the QuickTime movie up on Pro Tools, have it on the timeline, and play to it, accordingly, all MIDI. Yeah.
And when you hand stuff in, like, does sometimes stuff get rejected? Like, how does that work? Like, they just have to approve everything, go back and forth?
We have a back and forth. Like, we'll change this, move that, and, make this swell happen here.
Yeah.
Take this piano out, or, add this, and, a lot of revision, a lot of back and forth.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm a huge movie buff, so I think, something like that would be great. Like, how do you even, like, how do you stumble onto something like that? Like, or how did you know that you could even do something like that?
Well, I mean, I've always had a passion for soundtracks, and I love synthesizers, as some of you out there probably figured out by looking at my Instagram page. I'm like a total nerd with hardware. The first time I noticed that, and the first impact was probably from watching The Shining, and that opening theme that Wendy Carlos did was just so deep and dark and fucking awesome. And then following that was like seeing The Fog, John Carpenter film. He scored his whole film just on a Prophet 10 and Sequential Circuits, Prophet 10, and piano, and that was it.
Did you get a chance to catch him live when he did that?
I did a couple years ago. In fact, Al and I and his girlfriend went and saw that when he played in LA a few years ago. It
Crazy.
was fucking great.
Yeah.
To hear those theme songs that he created way back when with an actual band playing to the imagery. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I like, how he had Halloween and he showed it without the score.
Right.
And it didn't do well.
No.
And then he came up with that fucking score that everyone knows.
Which he did within like a few days.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't afford to hire someone else to do it.
That was a DIY fucking movie for sure.
He tried, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he tried to get the guy that scored Hitchcock.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
I can't remember his fucking name right now to save my life, but I think he kind of turned him down and was like, go away.
Yeah, because they only had like a certain amount of time.
Right.
Like I've seen.
Carpenter's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, and he fucking did.
And he fucking killed it.
And then he did The Fog and everything else, man. Like he's
Escape from New York.
Everything. Big Trouble in Little China. Come on, man. That guy, like, just everything. I'll shut up now.
No, I'm with you.
Save that shit for Red River.
But all that stuff, all those films and those scores, like, really made an impact on me, and that's what really got me into keyboards. Because at that time I was just learning to play drums. So, but I also was learning how to play keys. And what I learned on was this air pump organ that my cousin had that she was getting rid of. So I'll take that. So I started figuring out how to play, like, Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, which was one of the themes in The Exorcist. So I was like, tied into that and trying to figure out how to play the opening theme to The Shining and opening theme to Halloween. And then later my brother got a hold of actual synthesizer, brought that in the house. So then I got into synthesizers through my brother. I mean, him and I had a similar passion and love for all that music too. And it was a monophonic Pro 1 synthesizer, the monophonic version of a Prophet 10 and a Prophet 5 made by Sequential Circuits. So it had the similar sound engine that Carpenter had. So I was so jazzed on that. So I tried to come up with all these sounds, same kind of like warm, like sustain pad, deep, sounds that he would come up with, and run that through my brother's like reverb pedals and flangers and make these crazy noises.
Right.
I was around 11 or 12, something like that, and then my brother would keep bringing stuff in, and I would just learn from there.
That is the guy that you want. Somebody like that is somebody that you want scoring your shit. Yeah. You could hear the passion, and I think that's what a lot of those guys do. Like, they just, like, if you break it down like that, you could have just, somebody would have been like, I don't know, I'm just like fucking around with a keyboard, and somebody offered me a job. It's like, no, this is like, anyone who cites The Fog and does that, like,
oh yeah, man.
That's legit. Yeah. I'm with you. So
even going back to early Tangerine Dream, the Phaedra album, like that's another record that really had a big impact. Kraftwerk. Mm-hmm. I mean, fuck.
Yeah,
I have no words. I mean, it's great stuff. It's all part of my DNA.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of DNA.
Sam's gonna want you to be on the podcast. On his movie podcast. I wanted to ask you about. I turn on. How'd you get on Late Night with Seth Meyers?
Oh, shit.
Through their musical director, Eric Lederman.
Okay.
Who I've met previously. He used to play drums for Scott Ian's wife, Pearl.
Okay.
And then he is MD for Seth Meyers. And basically he gets different drummers to fill in for Fred Armisen because Fred Armisen is the drummer for 8G Band. So when he's not in town and not doing that, and he's off filming, Portlandia or whatever, he gets guest drummers to come in. It could be like Chad Smith, it could be Dave Lombardo, it could be Braun Daler. He gets drummers that he likes. And gives the drummer the spotlight because a lot of people don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he's just looking out for the drummer. So that's how I got in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a spotlight.
Fuck,
There's
yeah.
like, hey, Roy. Hey, Seth.
Seth, yeah. Seth's like, hey, how you doing, Roy? I'm like, hey, how you doing, Seth? It was pretty trippy, man. Like, I've never done a TV show like that ever in my life, following cues, following this, and counting a band in. It was crazy, man. I mean, I was nervous as fuck.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I didn't know what to expect. So when I showed up there, I met all the band, great people. I'm like, so how does this work? Well, we get together at 1 o'clock. You sit at that V-drum kit. We're all plugged in direct into Pro Tools, and we come up with 10, 20-second two-part songs a day.
Wow.
So we would do that, and we would record them.
Mm-hmm.
And once we liked what we got, we would just record it. Okay, that's good. Move on to the next. Okay, we need intro music for when this guest walks in. Okay, let's do that. Okay, we need commercial break music. Okay, now we need another intro for this guest to walk in. Mm-hmm. And so then we would write all these parts, these little songs, like 5 or 6 of them. And then once that's established, then we get on the sound stage, and we all have in-ears. And we basically get a few seconds of these songs played back in our ears before we play.
Oh wow!
And then I count the band in when I get the signal from the guy next to the camera. Doing that. As soon as I do that, it's bat bat, and then in.
Holy shit!
And then you got to keep playing until he puts his finger down. And no matter where you are in the riff, it could be the second measure, it could be the third measure. You got to do that big drum fill to cue those guys when to stop.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So were you ever like, fuck, I forgot the song?
No, because they play it for you in your ears before you go do it.
But even still,
it's
like,
fail safe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fail safe.
Especially for like you said, 20-second thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
2 parts, 2 parts.
Pro as fuck, man.
Yeah,
But then forget that.
But the other,
I got nervous when you were just telling me about
dude,
that.
the challenge though. But the challenge is when Seth calls a guest on. And, ladies and gentlemen, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Snare hit. Bop. Whatever. Yeah, cool. Wait for Seth until he's about to sit down. Yeah.
Wow.
I gotta wait for him to right as he's about to sit down. I gotta time that fill perfectly.
Yeah. You don't think about it, but like when I'm like,
I was nervous as fuck. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. The first day was just fuck.
Like, why did I just say yes to
And
this?
then after that, it was a piece of cake. And they all told me that, dude, you're gonna be nervous as fuck the first day, which I was. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, fine. It was one of the greatest experiences ever.
Yeah.
And the band are great. Everybody in the band's so cool. Eli, who actually the keyboard guy with the glasses, he used to be in Boys Against Girls.
No kidding.
Yeah, man.
Oh wow.
All DC people. Yeah.
See, Rory knows everyone. I told you.
No, they're great, man. Everybody on their crew, all the stagehand people are great. Seth is super cool. I got to hang out with him, like at the rap party at the end of the night, like at the end of the week. He was so cool, man. Yeah.
Awesome.
what a gig. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best time of my life.
People like our age now like are in those positions where they can be like, hey, I love this band or I love this player, Now everyone's like...
They're making it happen.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
They're bringing it out, though.
Yeah. I didn't get to meet any of the guests, though.
Ah.
Because I'm on stage and they're just walking in, and as soon as they walk off, they leave.
Right.
Yeah.
They probably don't hang around.
No,
Yeah.
no, they don't.
Yeah.
You never
it's
hit
still
it.
cool to see them, like,
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like, holy shit, it's O.J. Simpson.
Do you like click tracks or no?
I hate them.
I like them.
Some drummers hate them. Some drummers.
You know what? With click tracks, I over the years, when I first started playing with click track was when I was in Thorn. We had to because we had the sequencer, all of the samplers and shit. I used to play 2 on top of it, and once I got in the studio with Thorn and recorded with our friend, this guy John Travis, he was a producer. He taught me how to play around the click, in front of it, behind it, and that's what I do now. Push and pull on it. That's what you're supposed to do, I still use a click these days, even live. Like, I'll have my tech hit the click on for me in the beginning of the song and then turn it off as I count in, just to kind of give me a reference point where to go. Because, you're up there, you're like,
energy. Yeah.
You just want to reel it in, and because you don't want to play too fast, you lose the groove and you fuck those guys up. And I think it's just a good reminder thing in the background,
Yeah.
But there are certain songs that we do play live that I do play to a click because we have backtracks. We have strings and stuff like that. Like the intro is to a click. The song "Tired" is to a click because of all the string stuff. But that's it. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense to like start it off, especially like in a live setting.
We did that like on the record too. On Hydrograd record, I had a click, 8-bar click, and then out, and then play with the band live. The band would play to my clock, and then hope for the best.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's it. We just made a record and no fucking click, but no one's gonna listen to us. So it doesn't matter.
Oh, come on!
I'm cool.
Don't be like that.
No, our drummer, like I trust him.
That's good.
what you
Gotta
need.
trust a drummer.
Yeah.
As Dave Grohl says, a lot of people think drummers are dumb, but what they don't realize, if it wasn't for us, their band would suck.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
Dave Grohl said that.
Dave Grohl. He's right.
not Roy.
The tour thing?
Yeah, let's talk about. Speaking of Hydrograd, that's your latest record, and you're on tour, playing Ozzy's farewell tour.
Yes.
Which has got to be
Huge.
Oh my God. If you would have told me this 30-some years ago, I'd been like, you fucking crazy. I mean, the fact that him and Sharon handpicked us to open for them, it's for me is like the hugest honor. Yeah.
incredible.
It is incredible.
And did you know Ozzy and Sharon before? Had you met them?
I did when I was in Soulfly. We toured for Ozfest, and they took us out. Then it was System of a Down, Soulfly, Megadeth, Tool, Ozzy on that stage.
Wow.
And that's how I first got to know Sharon and Ozzy.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you really think he's retiring?
You know what?
I think we've been through this before.
Maybe. But at the same time, he seems like the kind of person that'll just keep doing it till he can't.
Right.
And that to me is cool. Like, look at the Stones,
Yeah.
They're still doing it. I just saw them a month and a half ago on a day off in England, actually in Wales. And they were fucking incredible. I'd never seen the Stones before. They opened up with Street Fighting Man. My fucking jaw just dropped to the floor. It was loud.
Right.
It was loud as fuck, man. They're like mid-70s killing it for like 2 hours.
It's incredible how.
And Mick Jagger's just strutting up that catwalk like nobody's business, sweating, fucking just giving it. Still gives a shit. All of them do. They all love being up there. They don't have to tour.
They don't need the paycheck.
No.
Doing it anyway.
They don't. And they still sound check. So everyone out there that bitches about fucking sound check, the Rolling Stones sound check for an hour. And then they go play a show for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
At 71 years old.
At 71 to 76 years old, yeah.
I think
it's great.
I think if you could still do it,
Why not?
Definitely, why not? Like, what else are you gonna do?
It's just a number. If you can physically still do it, do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to. I'm going to keep doing it till I can't.
I mean,
I use them as a gauge. I gauge off of them when to stop. How about that?
yeah, I'm going to whenever they stop.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, maybe some people do feel that way. Maybe like Ozzy does feel like this is his last tour. But 5 years from now, who knows? He might just be like, I want to fucking play again.
Right.
So who knows? Like, I think it's a genuine.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's. I went yesterday, and the set list that he played is just fucking everything.
His set list is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's like hit after hit,
Yeah.
hit after hit after hit. It's like God.
And then I like 3 Sabbath songs to boot.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I take advantage of it every day. Like, I'm watching them every day because like it's. When do you get to see Ozzy every day?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, good point.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's incredible.
Now let me ask you real quick: Diary or Blizzard?
Oh my God, you're killing me. Diary or Blizzard?
I'll give you mine after.
I think I gotta say Blizzard because that was the first record I heard.
Okay.
And I have real, sentimental attachment to that because of that. I love. Oh,
they're both
Diary.
amazing.
They're great, but Blizzard, it just reminds me of hanging out with my brother and our cousin in his room listening to that.
Yeah.
And it was cool,
I go Diary. The older I get, Blizzard's amazing, but the older I get, I lean more towards Diary. So I was just curious. I ask everyone that.
I love them both.
Yeah,
if I
both.
had to pick, I'd pick Blizzard.
Yeah, I mean those are both two to come out like so strong. Ultimate Sin, that's another one. So
I have his greatest hits. Yeah. That's my favorite. Nobody asked me.
all right, so you pick greatest hits.
I like the pause. You're like, I got his greatest hits. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I get way too geek.
You know what? You're an asset to this podcast, Sam. Don't think otherwise.
Don't cut myself.
So, How long are you touring with Ozzy? What's the future of Stone Sour?
We're out with him until October 13th.
Okay.
And last show I think is in Vegas.
Okay. And then what? What are you doing after that?
We got like a month break, and then we get back together. Sorry, I got gum in my mouth.
I mean, it is like a podcast rule.
Yeah, right.
No chewing in the mic.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I know. See,
Oh,
what am I doing?
why
I
would
spill,
he
I spill things.
Really?
I chew gum.
I've been chewing gum out. I think he was just joking.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're off for about a month, and then we get back together in November and do 5 dates in Russia.
Oh wow.
And then a few weeks after that, we go to Australia and do 3 dates with Offspring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for the Good Things Festival. It's a new festival that's happening in Australia now.
Have you been to Russia before?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a couple times. We were just there last year, last December. We started there and then did the rest of Europe. The time before that, I was there with Soulfly, and I was there with Ministry actually.
Okay.
On the last tour I did with them. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I guess the people are like, what are the people like? Just psyched that you're there?
Yeah,
Wow.
man, they're just fans of music, man. They're fucking lifers, you know.
That's awesome.
They get it. They lose their shit like we lose our shit when we play and get to see your favorite band.
Yeah.
I don't hold any emotions back when I'm seeing my favorite band. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Except there's like a room full of them when you're playing in Europe. It's great, you know. You can feel the love, you know. We give the love, and we feel the love back. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like when you see like you play all these places, because like sometimes people just have these like notions and they think of like governments and all that other nonsense, and like you just go and like just like that documentary, like fucking that metal band from Iraq and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, man, music just really is like this universal language. Like it's amazing.
It brings everyone together.
It's fucking cliche.
Nothing
but
else
it's
matters.
True. Yeah, nothing.
Everything's left at the door. You're all having a good time in the room.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
awesome.
the great equalizer.
It is.
Yeah.
And you get to see that. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does it go into 2019? Are you still playing, or are you going to do a new record?
2019, we're going to be done for the next couple of years, because obviously Corey's going to go back and do Slipknot.
Okay.
Christian Martucci is going to team up with this band, the Black Star Riders.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Ricky, vocals from The Almighty, and Scott Gorham, who's Thin Lizzy.
That's who it was.
It's great. The stuff that I'm hearing that Christian's working on with them, it's fucking awesome. It's like a punk version of Thin Lizzy. It's like, to me, it sounds like if Thin Lizzy and Stiff Little Fingers got together.
Woo.
It has that vibe to it. It's so fucking good. For me, I'm probably just gonna just work on scoring stuff. I have a couple things coming up next year. I can't really talk about it right now, but I have a couple things on the burner that I'm gonna be working with. And I'm also going to work on just a solo record of drums and synth-driven music, of instrumental, just all instrumental. I want to do one long 40-minute piece that has a lot of different movements in it. So it'll be a 2-sided album, or maybe even a double album, who knows, but actual vinyl. Right. And, obviously, get it on iTunes. That's my goal, to do that and to go perform it somewhere, So hopefully by next year, by the end of next year.
Okay.
Would you make like a video to go along with that, like a visual?
Probably. To what while I'm performing on stage? Probably. I'll probably do something like that. I'll probably keep it really simple. Like what I envision is just my drums, all my synth hardware, basically in a circle. I'll be in the middle of it, and maybe one nice big screen in the back, and just really low key.
Love it.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Less is more.
Here's what you should do for 2019.
I'm listening.
Do you take requests?
I take requests.
Possibly Nausea, but definitely Youthquake.
Bring it back.
They could open the whole show of your one-night drum extravaganza.
I don't think that'll really go.
Well, we'll talk.
That's separate. Hey, man, I'm always open to the idea of reuniting Nausea, even for just one gig. It'd be great. But like I said, I don't think any of us will do it unless we're all in for it,
Yeah.
And I've put it out there a few times, and it's just up to the rest of the gang to want to get in on it, you know.
Right.
And
Are any of them still involved with music?
Victor, the guitar player, he plays in the Coffin Daggers, so yes. John, not as much. He was playing with Morning Glories for a while. That's Ezra from Leftover Crack.
Oh wow. Okay.
But he's actually full-time artist. He's crazy, like amazing, like paintings. You guys should go check out his stuff. It's great.
I think we got ourselves a podcast, Roy. You know, we got up to 2019. We shouldn't go beyond that. Do you have any more, Sam? Okay, last question.
Yeah.
So the name of the podcast is If I Ruled the World.
If I Ruled the World.
So what we do is we pose it to our guests, Roy Mayorga. If you ruled the world, what would that look like?
If I ruled the world, wow. You're kidding me.
Not kidding.
If I ruled the world, I wouldn't know where to start, man. To be honest. There's a lot of shit here that needs to be cleaned up and corrected for everyone.
And how?
I wouldn't know where to start.
Where would you finish?
Where would I finish? After everything's all said and done and cleaned up and good for everyone?
Yep.
Where would I go? Where would I go?
How would it look when it's done?
How would it look when it's done?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. I don't know how to answer that.
A synthesizer for everyone?
Well, I don't know about that.
Fucking up.
It's a simple question.
I'll get back to you on
but
that.
it's not an easy one. Because
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't be able to answer it. Me
Oh,
and
yeah,
Sam,
no,
we
we-
thought about
Well,
this.
there you go. There's the answer. I can't answer that.
Can't answer it.
There you
No.
go.
You know what? I would take, even though I wouldn't know what Roy would do, I would live in Roy's world.
You would?
It would be
Yeah.
great. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm with you.
Well,
behind you.
You wouldn't have any crushed demo tapes on the floor. That's for sure.
right. There'd be a lot more respect for those bands.
There you go.
There you go.
My world would have a lot more respect for one another. How about that?
Okay.
That works.
Awesome.
I think when I think of you, I think respect is a thing that comes up. The way you treat people, the way I think of you, and what I've seen from all the things that you've done, and
Thanks, man.
especially the story here today. That's a great way when you think about Roy. Is just respect.
Back at you.
Yep.
Thank you for doing it.
All right.
All right.
We're good.
Yeah.
Not everybody
You're the
does.
only one.
Really?
No.
If I ruled the world.